The year is 1590. A small English colony on the edge of the New World stands eerily still. Houses are empty. Tools lie scattered in the dirt. No voices, no footprints, no sign of struggle. Only silence. Governor John White steps ashore after years away. He had crossed the Atlantic to reunite with his family, his wife, his daughter, and the infant granddaughter he'd never seen grow up. But what he finds is not life. It's absence. He moves through the settlement slowly, the fence torn down, the huts stripped clean as if abandoned with care. Then his eyes catch it. A single word carved into a wooden post. CROATOAN. No graves, no bodies, no cries for help. Just that one deliberate word, etched deep as if meant to be found. What did it mean? Was it a clue or a farewell? The mystery of the lost colony of Roanoke begins here, with one word, carved in wood, and 100 lives that simply vanished. Because before the silence, there was hope and a dream to build a new world. In 1587, more than 100 English men, women, and children set sail across the Atlantic, chasing the promise of a new beginning. The air aboard the ships was thick with salt, fear, and hope. To them, Roanoke Island was more than land. It was destiny. These settlers weren't soldiers or conquerors. They were families, carpenters, farmers, artisans, ordinary people dreaming of an extraordinary future. They had left behind the smoke and struggle of Elizabethan England for the chance to claim their own corner of the New World. At their head was Governor John White, a skilled artist and loyal friend to the colony's founder, Sir Walter Raleigh. His task, build England's first permanent settlement in America. For weeks, the settlers carved homes from the wilderness, planted crops, and tried to make peace with the Algonquian tribes nearby. But paradise came at a price. The soil was poor, supplies ran thin, and whispers of danger grew with every passing day. Still, they held on, because starting over always begins with struggle. And when survival grew uncertain, Governor White made a fateful decision, one that would change everything. The dream of Roanoke was fading fast. What began as hope soon turned to hunger. The settlers, just over 100 souls, found themselves trapped between a merciless wilderness and a dwindling food supply. The soil refused to yield crops, fresh water was scarce, and storms battered the fragile settlement. Relations with nearby tribes, once cautiously friendly, began to fracture under the strain of desperation. Misunderstandings turned to mistrust, and mistrust turned to bloodshed. Governor John White knew their survival depended on help that could only come from England. In the summer of 1587, he made an agonizing choice: to leave his family and colony behind and sail home to gather supplies. He promised he'd return quickly. But the world had other plans. England was at war with Spain. The seas were controlled by enemy fleets. Every ship was seized for battle, and John White's pleas to return were delayed for 3 long years. 3 years of storms, starvation, and silence. By the time he finally returned to Roanoke, nothing was the same. When John White finally stepped ashore in August 1590, the world he had left behind was gone. The settlement stood eerily empty, houses dismantled, fences pulled down, no voices, no smoke rising from hearths. It was as if life itself had been lifted away. He called out for his family, for anyone. Only the wind answered. White moved through the remains of the colony, his heart pounding, his boots sinking into untouched sand. There were no bodies, no signs of violence. The chests he had buried for safekeeping were dug up and rifled through, but carefully. Whoever had left had done so in order. Then, carved into a wooden post, he saw the single word that would haunt history forever: CROATOAN. Another carving, CRO, appeared on a nearby tree. No cross, no distress symbol, nothing to suggest danger. White took it as a sign, a clue that the colonists had moved to CROATOAN Island, now known as Hatteras Island. But when storms rolled in, his ships were damaged, and his men refused to continue the search. White was forced to turn back to England, never to return. A settlement gone, a single word left behind, and centuries of questions that still echo through time. For more than 4 centuries, the question has lingered like a ghost. What really happened to the lost colony of Roanoke? Historians, archaeologists, and storytellers have searched for answers, each theory more haunting than the last. One theory says the colonists sought refuge with the CROATOAN tribe, integrating into their community to survive. Later English explorers reported seeing gray-eyed natives and European-style tools among local villages, small clues that hint the settlers might have lived on through new generations. Others believe Roanoke fell victim to starvation or disease, that the colonists tried to move inland toward the Chesapeake, only to perish in the wilderness. Then there's the darker theory, that Spanish raiders from Florida, enemies of England at the time, may have destroyed the colony in secret, leaving no trace behind. Still, none of these theories can fully explain the eerie calm of Roanoke's remains. No signs of struggle, no signs of flight. Only careful dismantling, as if they planned to leave. In recent years, archaeologists have uncovered European artifacts, bits of pottery, tools, and weapon fragments, miles away from the original site. Could these be remnants of the lost settlers who merged with native communities nearby? Each clue brings us closer, but the truth still lies buried beneath centuries of soil and silence. Centuries after the colonists vanished, the soil of Roanoke still guards its secrets, but every dig brings the past a little closer to the surface. Archaeologists have spent decades combing the Carolina coast, uncovering faint traces of lives once lived. At Site X, near the Albemarle Sound, fragments of English pottery from the late 1500s were discovered, pieces that match the timeline of the missing colonists. Another site, on Hatteras Island, revealed a signet ring, gun flints, and trade tools, items that hint the settlers may have joined local tribes rather than perished outright. Each artifact is like a whisper from history, faint, incomplete, but undeniably real. And beyond the dirt, technology is now rewriting what we know. Ground-penetrating radar, aerial mapping, and even DNA studies of descendant communities suggest a quiet merging of two worlds, English and indigenous, long before official records ever acknowledged it. After all these centuries, Roanoke may not be a story of disappearance, but of transformation. The mystery of Roanoke didn't fade. It grew. From a failed settlement on the edge of the world, it became one of history's most haunting legends. A story retold for over 400 years, reshaped by each generation searching for meaning in its silence. Writers, historians, and explorers turned the lost colony into myth. Some called it a ghost story, others a parable of human endurance. Even America's early storytellers, from Edgar Allan Poe to modern filmmakers, have drawn on its eerie sense of emptiness, that chilling image of a world abandoned mid-breath. In classrooms and museums, Roanoke stands not just as a mystery, but as a symbol of the risks taken in pursuit of hope, and of the thin line between survival and disappearance in the age of exploration. And while we may never know exactly what happened, the colony's echo lives on. In every unearthed artifact, every retold tale, and every whispered question about how a dream could vanish so completely. Because Roanoke was never just a place. It was a promise. One that disappeared, yet somehow never truly died. Centuries later, the mystery of Roanoke still whispers through time, carried on the wind that sweeps across the Carolina coast. One word, carved into wood, still echoes louder than 1,000 answers. CROATOAN. That single word, neither warning nor farewell, became the heartbeat of America's oldest unsolved mystery. It stands as both clue and question, a reminder of the fragile line between presence and disappearance, between what history remembers and what it forgets. Every storm that hits the Outer Banks stirs the same thought. Somewhere beneath the shifting sand and tangled roots, the truth may still be waiting, silent, buried, and patient. The lost colony of Roanoke remains unsolved. But maybe the mystery isn't about where they went. Maybe it's about how far humanity will go to begin again. Because some words, once carved into history, never fade. If the echoes of the past fascinate you, subscribe to Lost in the Lore, where history's greatest mysteries never stay buried for long.